So welcome all of you. And for today, we're discussing education. That is part 2. And we have Clarice. Clarice, I want to hand over back to you so that at least you can introduce yourself and we can get to know you and take it over from there. Clarice, the floor is yours.
Hey, so can everybody hear me? Thumbs up.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm Clarice Jackson. I'm from the United States, Omaha, Nebraska. So we're smack dab in the middle of the U.S. So I've lived in Omaha, Nebraska all my life. I am the mother of 2 children. My daughter had dyslexia, which is the most common learning disability, and she also had ADHD. So that's what kind of got me into this work as a parent first, trying to navigate the school system for her here in the US. And then from there, I decided that I wanted to do more than just help my daughter. I wanted to help other families. And so that started a journey of me becoming a special education advocate. And so I would go into individualized education plan meetings. We call them IEPs here. I don't know what you guys call them in Africa, but we'll find out today. So we have these. Are they the same?
Yes, the same.
Okay, good. So we have the IEP meetings, and I would go into those as a special education advocate. Took many years of training. I'm now a faculty presenter for the Institute of Special Education Advocacy every year annually in July at the William and Mary Law School, which is a very prestigious law school here in the United States. So we work with advocates and attorneys. They come in from all over the US, some outside of the US, and we just have trainings and teachings and simulations that deal with anything that you can think of regarding special education. I'm also the president of the state chapter of Decoding Dyslexia. And Decoding Dyslexia is a grassroots parent-led movement that started with a group of parents in New Jersey and is spread all across the US and Canada and will be in Kenya soon.
Wow,
yeah, Decoding Dyslexia Kenya. And it's been a very powerful movement. We've gotten a lot of great things done. We've raised and amplified the name, the voice of dyslexia, what it means, how it affects children. And it's just been very, very powerful. So there's legislation almost in every US state. And we got a couple of states that are still coming along, but we believe and know that will happen then. And so it's just been a very powerful journey. I have a tutoring center here as well. It's called Voice Advocacy Center. It's the first of its kind in my state. And we just provide dyslexia screening and tutoring for families and students who have the classic signs of dyslexia. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad we got this call going and the times all together because it's 10 a.m. Central Time here. So if other people on the East Coast, it's 11 a.m. there. So we kind of had to work with this the last time, but I apologize, but I'm here today.
Thank you for making the time. I know last time everyone was all excited and waiting for you. And then we realized there was the time zone difference that was giving us a challenge. But, yeah. You know.
Like 5 a.m. in the morning last time. And I was like, what? I thought it was at 6 p.m. Like, I'm not ready for this. And we had one of our friends, Katie, from Wisconsin. She was very eager about being on last time, but I said it's 5 a.m. So, but I wanted to make sure for you, Sylvia. I know Rosalind just came back on, and Katie said she would start a watch party, but she can't start the watch party until we are linked on. So, are we on Andy Speaks yet, Rosalind?
Lynn, can you confirm to us if we're live on Andy Speaks? Because on my side, I've sent the host, and since I'm on my phone, because I got caught up in the middle of being mother, teacher, all those things that we have to do right now, I haven't made it to my computer yet. So I am hoping that, Rosaline, have you made it yet?
I'm trying, but it is saying the page can't be displayed.
What do you mean cannot be displayed? Because I see Katie is trying to. Katie, I've added you on Andy Speaks, but I need you, Rose, to go live on there because you're on the computer. It's not giving me the option of going live on the computer.
And Esther is trying to get, I'll let her in, okay.
Yeah, you let her in. Okay, let her in. I'm trying to see what it needs. Do I need to make Rosaline admin on the page for her to be able to take us live on FB?
Yes.
Or Rosaline, can you go on your own page? Or on, I don't think you can do on mine. But just, are you able to go live somewhere? Then you share with us the link. We can keep putting out the link at least for that. Because I know most people are so used to it being at 2 p.m. So that sudden change, as much as we've tried to make it a condition the whole week, can be quite a challenge right now. Okay. Yeah. Esther says she can't hear. I'm not sure. I know Maida says she can't hear us. I'm not sure why. Maida, can you hear us now? Because she's our sign language interpreter. She needs to be able to hear us for us to make this happen. Esther says she can't hear.
Sylvia, I'm not.
Sorry?
Esther is saying she can hear.
Okay. And Maida, can you hear us?
Yeah.
You can? Okay. Okay. Rose, how's your progress with Facebook?
It is still saying the page can't be displayed. And I'm also not seeing the option for making Maida on Spotlight.
Okay. I thought all these things are the same. Looks like, or there is all these other things that are on the laptop that are not on the phone. Okay, for today then we'll just carry on as is, I presume.
Sylvia, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, so I'm looking at how you go live on Facebook. So you click on account management and account settings.
That's already set. That's usually set. The only challenge is when I'm on my phone, I'm looking at where I'm supposed to get that option for going live on Facebook, but it's only giving me chat, claim host, meeting settings, minimize meeting, virtual background. So it's not giving me that option of going live. But then you see, I've already handed over the host option to Rosaline. But I think the best thing we can do, since we have the recording, we're going to put it out on YouTube and everything. Let's just proceed. Because even before we started going live, we always used to do this. So we just slide with it. So Clarice, just take it on. Whoever we have in here, we're going to work with that. Because I know so many people by 2 p.m. I was getting you have people waiting, and I'm like, people, we say it's 6 p.m. for today. Change a lot, because we've done it at 2 p.m. for like 2 months. So everyone just has a default setting of 2 p.m. is our time. So, but we had someone else who does 6 p.m. We also swapped it so that they did theirs at 2, so we could do ours at 2, because we have the same target audience, that is special needs parents. So yeah, so let's see how this goes. So Clarice, what I suggest is let's go with it, because we're gonna still post it on our YouTube, post it on all the groups and all of that. So let's just get it going. I think that's the best we have right now as we figure out the technicalities as we slide on.
Okay, right. Sounds good.
Super. All right. So take it away.
Okay. So can you, Sylvia, or anyone from Kenya, can you all speak to what it's been like there with COVID-19 and sheltering in place or on lockdown, and how has your school system implemented addressing the needs of children in special education or with special needs?
Wow, we are all down in lockdown. All schools are closed. So for us parents, personally as a caregiver of 2 children in the autism spectrum, it's been a bit of a hell of a time, because I'm dealing with a change of routine. I'm dealing with a lot of meltdowns than usual. I'm trying to balance being a caregiver, being a therapist, being a teacher, being a businesswoman, being a parent. So which my kids are not taking in so lightly, in terms of they don't want to do the things I want them to do. So I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, it is time for school. Let's try and do these things. And then like one of my sons is very compartmental. So he's like, okay, no, you're mommy. Why the hell are we discussing about schoolwork? Like, no, I'm not doing this. He wants the tablet to do sing-alongs and stuff like that. So it's also frustrating me as a caregiver in terms of we need to do this, we need to get it done, because I'm trying to set up a new routine where we get it done so I can run to the office and come back and do all of these things. So it's generally not been easy for most of us. And also considering the way it was very sudden, how we stopped the classes and all of a sudden we're talking about other things. I don't know where they were in school, although I've tried to have a conversation with the school and find out, okay, where were you? What can we do? They're sending me homework, but my son still has not gotten over the challenge of, this is mommy trying to be teacher Teresa. So I'm like, so he's not taking that. He's blocked it like, your mommy, we're not going to do teacher stuff. So I get frustrated. I don't know, maybe there's someone else who can give us their experience of the same.
Yeah, in addition, the government has done nothing on part of the special needs children. Basically, they organized for radio lessons and TV lessons, but nothing specific was done to the special needs children. So it's the parent who has to struggle and know what they can do with their child. So that is the status we are in.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering, because it's somewhat different over. Well, there's some differences all the way around, but I just wanted to know how they were implementing from the school position, how they were implementing services to families who are at home. And so Sylvia's giving me a little bit, Rosalind is giving me a little bit. Esther, are you available by video to come in and comment? Because Esther works at a school as the principal, and I'd like to hear from her. If Esther, are you unmute and show us your lovely face? Because right now it shows you muted and video off. Can you do that? We'll see if she can come on. I'm letting somebody else in, somebody named Lucy. But so from what Rosalind said, you all are receiving your services that the school is offering, which according to Sylvia and Rosalind is very limited. It's by radio and television. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're doing radio and TV, but that's for atypical children. There is no session for special needs kids. So of course, we're trying to do things on our own generally. Like you're trying to figure out this new thing that you haven't done before.
Okay. So see here, what has happened here is COVID-19 happened just like it happened to everybody else. And school was called off. Everyone had to go home. And then we didn't really know at that point how long they were going to be off, because it was around spring break for most students that COVID-19 happened. So right after spring break, the kids didn't go back. And as the information about COVID-19 began to come in, it was determined that school's probably not going to go back into session. And so then they call it distance learning here. And one of the things that, similar to what you said, Sylvia, is that a lot of parents were thrown into crisis learning. That's what they call it over here. It can have different terms here, but they want to make the distinction between crisis learning and homeschooling, because homeschooling is a choice. It's something that you want to do, that you've had time to prepare for. It's a very structured process because you are prepared to do homeschooling. What you all have been thrown into and what we have been thrown into here is crisis learning, which is what you just expressed, Sylvia, when you were talking. Well, you're trying to be mom, teacher, businesswoman, all of the above, and then your children are like, well, mom, you're not my teacher, why are you making me do this? And you're trying to navigate the educational system. So that's the difference here. So what I would suggest there is that you guys, with the power and the advocacy that you all are doing there, really make that differentiation that this is not typical homeschool. This is crisis learning. And it was decided here we had to really do some strong advocacy So there's power in advocacy. There's power in the parent voice. So what happened here is that there was a question that came up with our federal government, who decides on the Individuals with Disabilities Education Plan, the act, the law. And that law trickles down to each individual state, because we have 50 states. That law gets trickled down to the local state. The local states then interpret IDEA, and they have to follow those rules. Well, when COVID-19 came in, a lot of people and a lot of teachers and teachers unions, because that's how it works over here. There's the school district, and then the teachers that are infused in there, and then they have a union which represents their best interests and advocates for things specifically for teachers. So one of the things that they proposed is, let's just do away with having to be accountable and responsible for teaching children who have special needs while they're at home because of the crisis. Well, most parents here and advocates were like, oh, no, 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 no. You will not do that to our kids. So we all wrote letters to the federal government, Decoding Dyslexia, the whole group, the national group. We wrote letters, the Learning Disability Association of Nebraska, every special needs organization you can imagine signed on, and parents. And we sent a letter to the person that would ultimately make that decision, which would have been the Secretary of Education here, and her name is Betsy DeVos. And we sent a very loud message to her that said, as long as you are providing educational services for children who do not have disabilities, you will provide services to our kids who do. And you will not make that waiver happen. And so because of our efforts, she did decide and say that as long as you're providing regular education students with services, you will do the same for those with special needs. And you guys just don't have to figure out how to do that, but you're not going to get off doing that. So can someone from there, from Africa, my dear sister country, can you all kind of explain to us, because we want to be able to help you. There's a number of different people on here. Like I said, we have some DD people on here. We've got Dr. Sean Anthony Robinson by phone, and he is an African-American male with dyslexia. He is a professor at the University of Wisconsin. He he's wrote a book, and he wrote a number of books, one of which is called Dr. Dyslexia Dude. And it gives, and he turned his story of having dyslexia and trying to navigate the school system unsuccessfully at first, and all of the social and emotional trauma he went through, and not really knowing why he struggled to read. He turned that into a animated character so that young African-American students could see someone that looks like them, and specifically African-American males. And so, he's just done wonderful with that. He's coming out with another one, Dr. Dyslexia 2, and he's got a number of other books. But I just kind of want to know what your process is in regards to the school system. I don't think Esther was able to come on or unblock or whatever. I don't know if she can hear me. But what is the physical structure, the legal structure for special needs? And is it different by school, by location? How does it work? Do you have the same thing kind of like I said here, or no?
We're still fighting. We're still fighting for inclusion down here, because you will find, like, if we have the public schools, there is the general school with special units. They're trying to make things integrated, where you have both the special integrated in the regular system. Then we have the fully structured special schools, which are mostly private and not very accessible because of how expensive it is for most of the parents, all factors considered. So you find there is that challenge of following the curriculum. Like you mentioned, the IEPs, even our government bodies that are supposed to be overlooking all of these things have the state that, yes, IEPs are supposed to be done, but then when you go on the ground in the schools, IEPs are not being done. When we look at the teacher-student ratios, when we are seeing that it's about to be 2 to 7 maximum, we are having up to 25. And then that means also we are having all learning and neurodevelopmental disabilities all mixed up. All right, so that makes it very difficult for teachers. So they're just sitting there. It becomes more of a daycare as opposed to a learning institution. So the parents are forced to look at more of the private institutions, because there at least there is consideration of the different variables and the different needs of our children. so that they're being taken care of. I can see we have Lily on here, who is one of the core directors at T21, which is the dyslexic side. So maybe Lily, you could contribute, and then we hear from your side. What's your thoughts on what's going on the ground on that side of dyslexia, now that at least we know Clarice is a specialist on dyslexia? You can tell us what's on the ground, because I'm speaking from the autism side of life. Lily. Lily, are you there? Okay, seems that Lily is I don't know if she can hear me or not, but so generally that's how the setup is. I can tell you, even from the Ministry of Education that we have, they have a special education department, which the basic question of how many special needs schools we have, they don't have that data. So that tells you how bad that is. I also went to a school, a public school. I went to the head teacher's office, asked how many special needs students do you have? She gave me one number. I look up on her wall. The statistics on her wall are different. The statistics she gave me are different. The statistics the teacher gave me are different. So that tells you there is no attention to this specific special group. So we're still fighting for that recognition, for that balance and consideration. Like, our children also matter in terms of they're in school, we pay fee, give them what they deserve. Just don't club them in a room and say it's a special unit and that you're doing something about it.
Perhaps also it's all about resources. It's like the government distributing the resources, they are few, so the special needs schools have very few resources, very few teachers, as Sylvia has explained, and they lack those caregivers. Even as the teacher is teaching, some need to be taken care of. So it's really a challenge. Like, there is a school I went to, and in that school, the parent or the nanny had to accompany the child to school as the teacher teaches, because the school is not affording to have those caregivers alongside. So it's really a big challenge with our kids. They are almost just like daycares. They are
Rosalind, you keep going in and out. I'm very interested in what you're saying, but it's hard to hear you. I don't know, your Wi-Fi kind of went out. So can you repeat that last part again, please?
Yes, I was saying that I was talking mainly about the resources. Resource allocation to special needs school is very minimal. The second challenge we have is about caregivers. So in the schools, the teachers have to do everything, including caregivers alongside. The parent or the nanny had to accompany the child to school and do the caregiving as the teacher. Resources in terms of enough teachers, and therefore very little is happening. And I was saying, as learning, the amount of learning going on in public schools is really little. So they would really I don't know what the government should do or what we can do. As Sylvia is saying, yes, we are fighting, but we are far.
Clarice, just to add on, I think because we can't hear her well, but I can get closely to what she's talking about. Generally, like when I try to take my second child to a general school, a primary school that accepted that they can be able to handle my child, but when you get there, they ask you as the caregiver to come in with a nanny to support the school system. That is what she's talking about. If we look at the resources, the IEP, the actual equipment that is required in a classroom setting, we do not have that in public schools. In primary schools, it's still limited. If we're looking at things like the grippers, access to the down supplementary therapy, that you can only get in a private school. Because when I did my research, if I go to the UK, you have the speech therapist coming in, the speech therapy being, and the occupational therapist being very active in the upbringing of the child. Here, it's totally different. Like for you as a parent, you have to go figure out your speech therapist, figure out your OT, class is different. So you see, like everything is so scattered that you can't actually pinpoint the progress of your child in one setting. I hope that helps. So that means that everything is also scattered and it's not as put together as it is in the West. So you're like on your own as a parent trying to keep data of what the OT is saying, the ST is saying, the teacher is saying. If you have an ophthalmologist, like let's say for those with DS, you know, physio and all that. Because, you know, what I've seen from my research in the West is that all of these people usually sit up at the end of a term and assess. This is what I'm doing as an OT, telling the teacher. So you're working towards the same thing as a team. And that's what we're lacking on this side of the Sahara.
We here, can you guys hear me? So we here in the US are, trucking away, and we're thinking it's a long uphill road, but good Lord, you guys got a long ways to go. But I want you to be encouraged though, because I mean, it started out that way for us many, many decades ago, unfortunately. But IDEA has been around for a long time. I'm just wondering, how we can best support you, because it's really, really important to me that all children who have either dyslexia or special education need, they're both very, very close to my heart, that you guys have the resources and the information that you need. I think it's very daunting, and that's the difference here in the US and the West, is that parents are not supposed to provide the services or trying to figure them out. We are a part of the team and we work towards what's in the best interest or the most appropriate thing for the student, but having to come into a public school setting and direct them on what your child needs based on what you're telling me is very backwards from how we do it over here. So I'm wondering, from the advocacy work you all have done over there, have you all thought, and are you in the process, and anyone that's on the call that's there can answer it. I'd love to hear what you all are doing in the frame of putting together some type of movement to create a structure within the public school setting that addresses all of your kids' needs in a very structured, systematic way, where it takes the blame and the burden off of you as parents, but puts it back into the hands of the school system that's providing your children with their educations. Has anything been started or thought about in that respect?
That conversation with government, but you see, the sad situation here on is, if I'm not affected by it, then it doesn't matter. It's not on my priority list. That's sadly the political side of it, and politics is actually what runs almost everything on this side, right? So at the moment, we have, last 2 weeks ago, we sent out a bill amendment to the Senate, and we're hoping they're going to listen. When the COVID committee was set up, as Andy speaks also, we sent out, like, this is our challenges. We are cut out of therapy. We are cut out of all these services that actually gives us some sanity. Our routines are all messed up. But how seriously they will take that, now we have no idea. We're just praying and hoping that it's going to work. But it's not like really tangible. We can say like, oh yeah, they heard us or they're doing something about it. I know there is a very strong our education system, that is KICD, says they're working on something, because for the atypicals, they have put out the TV and the radio intervention. And we're saying, okay, our children also need to continue with their classes in our schools. So they're saying they're working on something. When we question, like, how far are we with this thing? It's been like 3-4 months we're in COVID situation, but there is no tangible feedback that has come. So you can't quite tell as a caregiver, this is where I'm at. So what we are being forced to do is, like, as a caregiver, I call the school, like, okay, what can I be doing at home? Send me homework, send me something to keep my child going. So it's entirely squarely on you as a parent to try and be the teacher, the therapist, speech therapist, occupational physio, and you know how much of a burden that can be. So that's where we are at. We're like in the dark, just navigating each day as it comes, each season as it's coming, as it's being thrown at us, we're trying to deal. So it's not something that I can say like, oh, government is A, B, C, D. It's their priorities are more focused on everyone else. Let's call it the majority, as opposed to us as the special needs community. It's like we don't matter right now.
That is very unfortunate. I know that that's disheartening and frustrating as a parent, especially with your child who has needs that are not being serviced. And I think, okay, there's some loud feedback there. Does anybody else on the call want to kind of share from their experience, either locally in the U.S. or in Kenya, so that we can just kind of get an idea of, one, those that are from Kenya can kind of see some of the things that are happening. I don't want to be the only one dominating the call, but what your perspective is on how you've navigated services for your child through COVID-19. And then I think we should, it's being recorded, but I think there should be some takeaways. I think what my best offer would be at this point is that we continue to have these conversations, and maybe not as open and public to everybody, but we create like a group and we continue to have these conversations and we share and dialogue so that we can kind of help the movement over there and build that movement there to become a force that can go to, I don't know if you guys are able to, once COVID-19 is over with, when the Senate meets and bills are being introduced or you're requesting bills to include certain things, do you have the ability to go in and provide public comment? Is that an option in the Senate outside of this COVID-19 situation? Can anybody answer that from over in Kenya? Can everybody hear me? Nod?
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, but maybe repeat the question, please.
Okay, so my question was, outside of you guys being sheltered in place because of COVID-19, in the normal situation, and the Senate is making the rules over there, and Sylvia was talking about how she had requested, or you all requested, some amendments to a bill, but you don't feel like you're being heard? You following me? Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is when a bill is introduced by the Senate, are parents and public citizens able to come to those meetings and to provide them with comments as they're trying to figure out if they're going to pass the bill or not? Do you guys get to do that?
Not really. What we did was to write the suggestion to the bill and the decision. Ours ended at the writing.
So you said you get to write a letter to the physician?
Yeah, we already wrote that suggestion, that amendment. So we are waiting for the Senate to decide. After that, they gave us an opportunity to write to them in the normal circumstances. Yes, someone can write a petition, but again, it all depends on the Senate. They are the ones who are going to decide on that. We can only write about it.
Just to add, the law requires public participation before any legislation is passed. However, as to whether it really takes into consideration what submissions are made during those public participations is another story. So at the end of the day, it requires a lot of lobbying. You need to have gatekeepers even within Senate to help you take forward whatever propositions you're putting, even if it's amendment or whatever it is you're asking to be included in that law. I think that's where we have a disconnect in Kenya.
That's good information. Is this Lucy talking? That's Lucy?
Yeah, that's Lucy. Clarice, that's Lucy.
Hi, Lucy. Okay,
Hi.
so Lucy, can you repeat that one more time? Because I want to write this down because I want to kind of help if I can, however I can.
Okay, what I was saying is that the Constitution requires that before any legislation is passed, it has to entail public participation. However, the disconnect comes in the sense that, one, you'd find that the time when the notice is given of a given bill that is before Parliament or even the Senate, the circulation is not to the wider public or to the concerned persons. So at the end of the day, unless you have gatekeepers within those institutions, you may not be able to influence the direction of what is being stipulated or proposed to be stipulated. And even where you've gotten chance to submit your submissions for propositions for possible amendments on the draft bill that has been tabled before Senate or Parliament, you find that unless you have again a gatekeeper, or you're conducting aggressive lobbying, you're conducting online advocacies around it, then you find that your propositions are again at the same time being left out and not being taken into consideration. And you'll find again, when it comes to special needs, and more so, personally, I'm a parent of an autistic child, we don't have that concerted efforts that we are all connected and we can voice our issues collectively. So that again makes us miss in those spaces when we want to influence. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like you kind of have a similar process here. We have, they're called lobbyists here as well. So they're the ones that their main job is to meet with senators, get to know them, and then based on who they work for or who's hired them to push a bill for them, then that's their job. That's their sole job, is to do that. I'm wondering, do you all within this group, do you all meet and coordinate? Do you have a network that goes out and tries to make relationships with these key partners in order for you all to build a relationship to be more effective within the Senate and the Parliament, so that you can get these laws created that are better for your students and to give your students a voice and access to services? Has that been thought about?
Okay, not really. We don't have those connections in the Senate. As I said earlier, and as Lucy has said, we are only involved at the level of public participation, where maybe we write our petition, and then after that it is now the Senate which can make a decision. Andy Speak last year tried to do town hall discussion, whereby they invited and and our challenges, and at the very beginning we have not we are at the scratch. See, we are at the scratch point.
So it's really hard.
Clarice, just to add on to what Roslyn is saying, I think one, even as parents and institutions that are offering the special needs in Kenya, what is lacking for us, or the challenge that we have, is that we don't have, say, like one union or one alliance that gets together to push these things. So we are having more of disjointed efforts, such that you're having possibly so-and-so is here, so says, okay, this is coming up, can we take this forward, like that. But in terms of being enjoined to have that critical mass to take forward or to voice the issues that are affecting our children and the increasing basically children population when it comes to special needs, I think we don't have that joint efforts, or one that you'd say, if you come in Kenya, there is this grouping that takes forward these issues. Yeah.
All right, that's what I was getting at. So there, you don't have that allyship amongst you all. So there's not a defined group that can start working to tear down or to build up, whichever way you want to look at it, the movement that you need in order to become effective in advocating for your students. So that's a key piece right there. You guys have an interpreter on here, which I'm very impressed with. So, I mean, you guys have a group. It's just making it formal and then becoming very strategic on what you do, who needs to be a part of this group. And from listening, we definitely need a connection from the Senate, if I'm saying that right, or the Parliament, whichever one it is, whoever makes these laws, what Lucy was talking about just a little bit ago, that you need someone there that can give you all the information on when the bills are being introduced, when the bills are being thought on or looked at, where you all can provide public comment. You need someone there, or you need a connection there to be your champion. That's the same thing we've had to do over here in the US. I don't know if Marion or Katie is still on the phone, but I want to let them kind of speak if they will. Marion, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I see you first and foremost. Can you kind of talk a little bit about, based on what Lucy has said about needing the lobbyist person, but kind of tell them and share them how it's working for you all, and what you needed to do in that particular area to start getting legislation passed? Because we have the same things you have going on in Kenya here, but that's how we started to gain and to start getting legislation through our movement. But I'll see if Marion or Katie has something to say. Marion, go ahead if you can.
Thanks, Clarice. And I have been maybe watching from afar, so I don't feel like I can speak really well to that. I actually grew up in Ethiopia and spent time in Kenya when my parents were there, so I'm very interested in what's going on in Kenya and all of this process. So I don't feel like a really good person on that, so I defer over to you and Katie.
Okay, thanks, Marion. Katie, are you still on?
Yeah. Hello.
Okay. Hi.
Well, I can only speak for how things have gone in Wisconsin. We finally had some legislation passed regarding dyslexia in the fall, and it was pretty much a full-time job. We had a team of, I'd say 3 to 6 people that would come down and talk to as many legislators as we could. We hit all of our senators, which was, I think, 33 senators and 50 some assembly people, which is our equivalent of the House. And we would just talk to anybody that would listen to us. And we finally had to have some staffers or aides to the legislators that had dyslexia in their family. And they kind of helped drive some of this legislation behind the scenes that we didn't even know about. And so it was it was pretty great. But I feel like we're building a team of people to work together. And I had commented that it would be helpful if somebody in your Senate had a family member that was particularly touched by a disability. It could be any disability, and would champion some sort of legislation. So I would just keep talking to people. You never know. I had no idea these aides had family members with dyslexia. I had no idea. And so they can kind of work behind the scenes and try to help out too. So that's what we've been doing in Wisconsin, is just talking to as many people as we can. And you know, you feel like you're hitting a brick wall, but then later people will contact you and say, hey, yeah, we support this, or, oh, have you talked to this person? Because you can't talk to everybody. So that's what's worked here.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate your feedback. So Katie is with Decoding Dyslexia Wisconsin. Again, we've got those chapters in every single state. So I know that in Kenya, you know, it can be very spread out as well. So geography wise, you know, I don't know where everyone is and if it's hard to get together in person, but you have this mechanism of Zoom. I'm just suggesting that this become a more formal group rather than having Zoom meetings to have conversations that's open to the public. My suggestion would be that you start to have more of a closed meeting with those who want to really do the work of trying to bring about some systemic change within your government and infrastructure that impacts education, whether it's autism, whether it's special needs, whether it's dyslexia, which is considered a learning disability. And you guys became very strategic in that. I think what Katie mentioned is very, very key. If you can, if any of the people that are in the Senate have spoke to or alluded that they have someone in their family that has a disability or has dyslexia, then they would be one of the people that I would reach out to and try to make them what we call over here our champions, because what it usually takes is a senator or someone who is impacted by the disability, who can identify with your struggle, who can identify with what you're having to go through, and then they bring forward a bill that is drafted by you all. So I think that those would be some starting points for you all to start thinking about. I can speak for myself that I'd be more than happy to kind of walk along with you all and kind of help you out with what I know and what I do over here to try to help in that capacity. In the meantime, in between time, I know that the issue is that your children are not getting the help that they need during COVID-19, and that can be very frustrating. But based on what you all have shared with me, you're not going to get that from the school system as it exists. And that's the hard part about it. So we need to be thinking outside of that, how we can give you some supplemental services, because I know it's hard on parents right now. So it would depend on access, because that's a huge thing too. A lot of families may not have access to the internet or things that you can do online. So then you have to think about, okay, what can we do with what we have? And I remember Esther telling me that the libraries really don't offer a lot of information there at all. She said that even books on dyslexia were very limited at the library. So is that the case overall over there as regards to books and resources? Would that be a true statement?
Yeah, that is very true. Very true. There are no books, no enough research, like even data, basic data you won't get. So there is a big challenge. It is very true what Esther said.
So Rosalind, what are you guys doing currently? So they're not giving you the information via the television and the radio that they're giving the regular education students, correct? So you all are left to yourselves. So are you just getting limited information from the teachers that you guys are doing at home with the kids?
Okay, for public schools, nothing at all is happening. Even whatever Sylvia was saying is for private schools. Private schools are the ones who are offering a little help. They are talking to parents on phone, giving homework on phone and such. But for public schools, nothing is happening totally. It is just the parent and the kid at home.
So in the private schools, you have to pay for your kid to go there, right?
Exactly, and the fees is very expensive, not affordable to many parents.
So are your kids in private or public school?
Personally, my child is in a public school, and it makes me so sad when I see that he cannot gain a lot academically, when I know he has he has the potential, but the kind of support he needs is lacking, and I'm not able to afford for him to get the desirable support he needs. And I'm not alone. Many parents are like me. We are not able to afford those private schools, because like a good private school here, for a year we are charged like what, like okay, I'm trying to convert to dollars. In Kenya, shillings is around 150,000. That is like, what is that in dollars? 15,000. Is it 15,000?
Jesus.
Yeah, per
That's
year.
more
So
expensive. That's more expensive. We have private schools here, and some of them can be pricey, but like here in Omaha, Nebraska,
Roslyn,
yeah,
I think when it comes to the
yes,
private school, they charge more than that. It's more than the 100 or 15,000 that you're proposing per year, because you'll find that
dollars.
it's a term that is charging that 15,000.
That is dollars. Yeah, $15,000.
Yes.
It is
No, not
very
15,000. 1,500.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Lucy.
That is a
1,000
term, not a year, which means for a year you're charged around 450, 4,500. And that is just on the lower side, basically, or average somehow.
So you're saying
and
about
then you
Yeah,
find
so-
that
US dollars or 5,000 your dollars?
US dollars now for a year on average for the special needs in the private schools. And then you find that, again, you have to take on therapists. And you see, for most parents, that is not something that is a walk in the park. It's a higher burden. And like you say, Clarice, I think this calls for us as parents, people who are dealing with special needs, to now come in and look at this as an area that requires public attention from the government. Because as it is, we are left on our own. You have to fend for yourself if you want something good for your child.
Yeah, and that's not going to work. Over here, the burden is not on the parent. The burden is on the school system. And it's much different from what you're telling me from over there. Over here, the public school system is obligated by law to provide these services. And then if a person chooses to take their kid outside of the public school setting and go to the private school, they can. But we don't have to take our kids. Let me be careful with that. A lot of us have taken our kids to a private school because we don't like the services that the public school is giving us. However, they are obligated by law to provide those services. It's just a lot of us have said, you don't have the education you need. These services that you're offering are not appropriate. Therefore, we're going to take our child to a private school. But ultimately, you should be able to get what you need from the public school. So it sounds to me like that's one of the main missions that your group that comes together in a formal capacity needs to do. That should be your goal, because it should not be on you all to have to find all this astronomical amount of money to provide a private school education for your kids when your kids really need the help and support that they should be getting in the public school setting. And so I think that is what needs to happen. Are any of you all on here willing and ready to start doing the real work of collaborating together? There's strength in numbers. Part of the reason why Decoding Dyslexia has worked is because of the number of people that came together. And so it became a collective voice. It became a collective movement. It's just not one parent going up there. It's not Rosalind going up there or calling or writing a letter solely by herself. It would be Rosalind, Lucy, Sylvia, Esther, Grace, whomever else is on the call. It would be all of you all collectively as one voice, bringing forth your ideas, your concerns, the problems that you're facing within the public school setting, and requesting that something be done by the government to address it. And then you keep advancing that and keep doing that and keep writing letters, come doing public comment, but you're gonna have to gain some more allyship. And so I would love to come alongside you guys and kind of help you with that. And we can think outside the box about how we help get you some information for your kids while they're at home, for those that are in the public school setting who don't have the private school access, which is at least giving your kids something while COVID-19 is going on. So we have people on here who have dyslexia, who have autism, all of those different things. So it's going to be a journey. It's not going to happen overnight, but we can do it. It just depends on what you all want to do. But I'm more than willing to walk this walk with you all and try to assist you in any way I can.
Thank
And
you.
bring along people that I know, because I can't do it all. and walk alongside you and showing you all how to become effective advocates and to build your grassroots movement to impact change. That's what I can give you. I can give you the tools to do that, but it's going to take you all on the ground working collectively to get it done. But I believe that the people that are on the phone and many, many others that you can probably just come and grab, you know, there are other kids and other families that you know that are going through the same thing. They need to be a part of this movement too. And then, like I said, we need to be in a very structured meeting where we strategize and we educate you all on how to advocate. Not saying that you don't know what you're doing. I don't mean that in educating as if you're stupid. I believe there's very bright people on this call, but just informing you based on what has worked here in the US on how you can take that and apply that over there. Does that make sense to everybody? And what are your thoughts on that? Anyone?
Yes, that will really help us. By us coming together and then lobbying the government to listen to us, I think that will really help. However, as you have said, it's a long journey, it's a process, and meanwhile our kids are still suffering.
Yep.
So that's what we feel. Yeah, so we even as we fight this we wait for it to happen. We may need a quick solution to our children meanwhile as we move on.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And so I'm willing to help figure out resources.
And I don't know how.
I can't hear you.
Just if I might just contribute a bit to that, Clarice, I'm just trying to think, looking at the unity that we require as caregivers to be able to push this agenda forward. I'm speaking from experience of the time when we tried to have and host, we called NEURODIGEST a town hall forum to just air grievances, and then we had some of the government stakeholders present to tell us what's in place, just to clarify, so that we know how to take it from there. But when you look at the response from most of the caregivers, you find that it's like we're depending on some of us to do some of the hard work, and we wait to just reap the benefits. That's one of the things. And apart from that, you will find that there is the challenge of, I would want to be there, but I don't know what to do with my child so that I can put them, like someone who can just support me with holding the fort so that I can go out and try and join in the movement. So some of those are some of the challenges that we find. And also, if you look at the political side, because everything down here is politicized, if it doesn't touch on a family matter of a person who's of influence, then it's not a big deal. You understand? So you will find that if no politician actually feels the pain that we feel as the neurodiverse community, then it's not important, you know? So that makes it very, very difficult for us to push our agenda. Like now, the way we sent the bill forward to the Senate, yes, we did push it forward. We have one person trying to talk on behalf of the entire neurodiverse community, plus the physical disabilities, plus, you know, the whole group. So you'll find that your issues will be either be minimized or trivialized because they actually cannot feel the pain that we go through as caregivers. And it makes life very, very difficult. That is the challenge. So what we've requested is if we can get a moment on the floor to air our grievances in person, and you know how hard that can be. So that's what we're trying to work on right now. But then the other question I'd pose, like right now, what we're going through as caregivers, what are the home hacks that we can do? Because every time I think, for me as a caregiver of 2 kids, I have an autistic parent at ADHD. My child is both right and left-handed. That drives me crazy because I don't know what I'm supposed to be focusing on. And they both have different ways of learning. So when it comes to home hacks and homeschooling in this period of COVID-19, just for the sake of not regressing, not lagging behind, what would you advise for us to be doing in the meantime? For us as rights advocates, that is like, as Andy speaks, yes, we are behind the scenes talking to the government and trying to let them know, like, hey, there's this group of people you're forgetting, like, do something. But then for the parents back at home, what in the meantime can they be doing? How can they support to just continue pushing for the agenda to be heard?
Okay, so here's a couple of things. Can you hear me? I don't know if I'm muted or not. I can't remember. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me? Okay,
We
great.
can hear you.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Number one, there was a question. I'm going to answer you, Sylvia, right after this question. But Marion said, is Daystar University in Nairobi a resource? Does anyone know?
I know I took some classes there like many years ago, so I don't know. I was just Googling them right now, so I don't know if any of the people know of people in any of the departments, education or counseling. And I'm willing to do some legwork and connections there if that is necessary.
Good, good. Because here's where I was going to go, Sylvia. So I want to make sure that I'm clear. When you say caregivers, because you said something about caregivers, are you referring to you all as parents? Because sometimes, you know, different terms mean different things. When we say caregivers here, it can be a parent or a family member, or a caregiver can be an outside person who is providing care to a loved one who may be sick or have a disability. So you said caregivers unity is somebody said that caregivers unity is a weakness. So what do you mean by caregiver? Is that you as parents, or is that someone else?
That I was making reference to terms of, like, you see, we have different groups. Like, you'll have the Autism Society on their own, the Cerebral Palsy on their own, and we have the learning disabilities on their own. But unless we come together as a neurodiverse community, we get the numbers to actually push the agenda. But so long as we're divided and we don't have data, because that's one of the things that are lacking with every government institution I've tried to engage, they say, show me the numbers. So if we don't come together, then you'll find that's going to be a challenge, of course.
Okay, gotcha. I was just trying to bring some clarity here. So yes, so we have a number of people on the phone. So through Andy Speaks, is that for just autism, or does that include dyslexia? Because how I got involved is because Esther over there, and she works at a school for special needs, but more specifically, her and I connect on dyslexia, and we met in London at the first annual Global Dyslexia Awareness Summit made by Dyslexia. So of the parents on here, I think one of the ways that we can address your resource shortage is if we knew exactly what type of resources you need for whatever disability it is. And what I'm thinking we could do from there is, if we get a list, and if you guys want to send this after this call, a list of the people on the call who wants to be a champion for whatever disability you all are looking for, like Rosalind, whatever your child is dealing with disability wise. If you write or send that to me via email, and then on the counter, you become an advocate over there for that particular disability, an advocate and a conduit for resources. And then what we could do over here, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I can get a group together over here. And what we can do is we can then reach out to organizations here in the US who deal with those particular disabilities. And lots of organizations love to become partners with organizations and people and missions outside of the US. And so we could try to funnel resources to you all that way to address what you are currently facing while we build the network and the grassroots for you all to begin to affect change through your Senate and legislation. Does that make sense? That would be my suggestion. We could definitely.
Very welcome initiative. That would be great. We really welcome that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So if you guys can, because I don't know who's all on the call and what disabilities they have.
Yeah, Lily wants to say something. Lily, please speak up.
Yes, Lily, that's what I'm asking. Yes, that's what I want you all to do.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I think this has been quite some great chats, and I'm excited. I think I also want to echo what Sylvia just said, that is that unity from caregivers, because I represent, actually, my son has Down syndrome. So, and I'm in this group called T21 Family Support Organization. And I feel if we did this as...
We can't hear you anymore. What happened, Lily?
Yes, Lily.
Oh, sorry, a call was coming through. If we did this like a unified front, you know, not Down syndrome, not autism, not ADHD or dyslexia, if we came out as just special needs, we will have a louder voice and be more visible. Because there is a point of reaching out to our individual partners, you know, people who feel the shoes we are wearing. By changing legislation, I think coming out as a block would be more audible.
Okay.
That's just my feeling, yeah.
What I would say to that, Lily, is I think there is strength in numbers. However, once you get down to the fine details, it's going to be very different because the disabilities are different and what they require are different. So I think there is power in the collective voice for all parents who have children with special needs. But when you get down to concretely nailing out what kind of support you need, it's going to be very different based on the fact that your kids, one has Down syndrome, one has a learning disability, one has autism. So I don't know over there. Over here, they've broken down the disability categories into 13 disability groups. So I think if your group is made and it's made collectively, as you all are suggesting, because you all are there, and so you would know better than me. You are your child's best advocate, and you guys are going to be the best champions of how we impact change. But what I would say is, once you create this group and part of the process, I would have to go by what I know has created some level of structure and has been working for us. It still needs tweaking. We're doing that every time we get into legislation. But I would say that you would need to then break your group within the group, not apart, break your group within the group into 13 disability categories. And you'd have like 13 committees within that group who then streamline and focus primarily on that disability category. So there would be a group for learning disabilities. We call them specific learning disabilities over here. There would be a group for we call them multiple disabilities. So that would include probably cerebral palsy and Down syndrome. They would be in that same group category. And I can get you all of the different, there's one for ADHD. Over here, that category that it would fall in, it would be OHI, which is other health impairment. But there's a way in which you can break this down in a structural way, but still be infused together as a group. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Yeah, it does.
So what I would be thinking about, because I hear what you guys are saying, and you're saying collectively to bring all of the disability groups together and to become one voice is going to be more powerful than you all being separate as you all are now. So what I would be thinking about and looking and trying to come up with is, how do we get someone from these particular groups who has the time or can make time? You know, and one of the things you guys might have to do over there is, if you all create this group, and I don't know where you guys live in comparison to each other. So those things would all have to be worked out. Okay, while Rosalind is going or working on this situation, Lucy is going to be the person that takes care of the kids while she goes and she does what she needs to do this particular day. And then the next time it happens, all of you all may not be able to go, and somebody else is helping with the kids while Lucy goes and does what she needs to do. I'm just using you all as example. I don't know, I'm not telling you guys to do that specifically, each one of you all, but there's ways in which we can work around this to become the strong collective grassroots movement that you need. And the thing that I want you to remember, these are your children and these are your schools. And you have to have that mindset, and that should be the power of the movement. These are our children, our schools, and this is what we need from this establishment. And we're not gonna take no for an answer. We're bringing our kids to this public entity, but we want them to be provided and appropriate. And that's one of the terms that we use over here in the US is appropriate. Why do we say appropriate? Because appropriate says just give them what they need. We're not asking you to provide them with the King of England or the Queen of England education. We're asking you to provide them one that's appropriate, that they can understand, that helps them to be the best person they can be based on how they learn and based on their disability. But that's what that is. So, is this something you guys want to do?
I'm
Yes.
in.
Yes, Lillian.
Okay, so what I would suggest is Sylvia or Rosalind or whomever, that you get a list of the participants that were on the call who are willing to be a part of this group. That would be the first thing. Is somebody taking notes over there so that you guys can go back and do this and talk about once we get off? Okay, okay, Rosalind, so that I would say, find out who wants to be a part of this group from this call. And then from there, break down what disabilities your kids have, so that we can start trying to figure out what type of resources we can try to get to you in a quick way while we're working on legislation. Then when you find that out, find out if that particular person, like Sylvia is with autism. Sylvia, do you want to be the autism champion? So the advocate, what I mean by that is once we find a resource to push autism learning information and resources to Kenya, that she will be the conduit to help other families who are in the same situation and be able to get that information to them. So we keep a flow. And then if somebody has a cerebral palsy, that person who's on this call, if not, then we need to find someone who has a kid who has cerebral palsy, who will be willing to do that, to be that platform, to be that conduit to get other families who have cerebral palsy, their kids who are out of school right now for COVID-19, so that they'll push that information to them as well. So that person needs to, yes, this is what my kid has, but then we need to find someone who's going to be that champion and that advocate to help other families in the community to receive the same information, if that makes sense. And then their name, we need their name and their contact information, right? Okay. And then we need to come up with meeting times of the group. And then we need to figure out who else we need to be a part of the group to help start pushing legislation. We need someone who truly understands how the legislation works over there. Whether we get that information online, but it's information that you need and it's information that I need, so that I can have some level of understanding of it. And then I can kind of compare and contrast what's happening here in the US and what is working here. And we could try to emulate some of that language into how you guys move forward over there. That might be helpful. And then if there's someone there who, because you said these libraries are lacking, you know, to try to help build up a library with resources for you all. Those are the things that come to my mind. Anybody else have any comments? I see someone, Lucy said my interest is autism. Liz said autism. Grace said she's in. So if you just look at the chat, Rosalind, you can see a lot of different names on there. And Lucy said, I think that's what we should all be looking into and coalesce together. So personally, Lucy says she's in, Lily's in, Grace is in, Liz is in, and both Liz and Lucy, their lane is autism. So if you write that down, and I'll ask, and Marion said, I am interested on this end, USN. Good, Marion. So we have Marion will be a champion on this side to work with us. Thank you, Marion. We appreciate you. So I'm fully confident we can get this going. The thing that I need from you all right away, I'm gonna give you my email address, is I need to know from those on the call, what your child's disability is, and what type of, I know you may not know this, but just tell me what their disability is and what you've been told or what they were doing in school prior to COVID-19, what kind of help they were getting. And then I can try, along with Marion and some other, and Katie said she's interested in helping from the US also. So good, we've kind of got a Kenya-based, US-based Kenya advocacy group going to try to help get some resources flushed your way. Okay, so I sent you my email, and I'll ask some other people to join on from this side, and just tell us what your child's disability is, and if there was something that was happening school-wise, what kind of services they were getting, and email that to me as soon as possible so that we can start working on this end to try to find some resources to push to you all. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's what we need to do. And then once you get the names, Rosalind, of everybody on the call that's in, get their name, email address, and phone number. And if they have Facebook, what their Facebook name is, because that could be a great way to do this. Facebook now has the ability to do like a chat room that looks kind of like this, and you can put it in a group form. So we might do some talking over there as well. So if everybody wants to put their email address in the chat, Lily already put hers that said that they're in, and that way Rosalind can write it down and have it. And then what I also need from you, Rosalind, is like for you, what kind of access do you have? Do you have access to the internet? Which I'm assuming you do because you're on here. But that's the information that we need for people that we're sending resources to. Do you have access to the internet? Do you have a computer? You know, is there a computer available for your child to use for resources? That way we know what kind of information we can get to you and how fast we can get it there.
Okay.
Okay.
For those on call, I've given my email address on the chat. You can send me your details, then I can put them together.
Okay. So Rosalind says email her at the address she's put in the chat. So everybody that says that they're in, please put that information down and email her what you just, like Lily, email that information to Rosalind at osugor@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yep. And then once that's done and she gets that information to me, then we need to get everybody send your email that's interested, because that's the way we're going to be able to set up another call and find a date that works for everybody to do that. Marion, did you have something to say? I can't hear you.
I was just laughing at a post. It's like, which one is Sylvia?
Which one is Sylvia on here?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sylvia is there. She's here.
Oh, she took out, she was here, but she put her Andy Speaks logo up, but she was the one that originally started talking earlier.
Yeah, the first one. Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
I'm here. Don't worry, Marion. I'm here.
So what do you think, Sylvia? I mean, you initiated this call and you got it going. Is this kind of where you were leading? Is this something that you want to have happen?
Yeah, I think we're getting off on a very good start where we're talking about, because sometimes we would like to get some things happen, but since you've been there before us, then your support would always come in handy. Like if we tell you this is what we're thinking, who do we need to have in place, what resources do we need, your advice and your hand holding will come in really, really handy. And we appreciate the fact that if we all come together, as we have seen the parents are willing and ready, then I think we are off on the right start.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I look forward to us collaborating and getting these things done. So as soon as you guys can get me the information about what your kids who are sheltered in place with special needs are lacking or in need of, or what disability category they're in, then that's the quickest way that we can start trying to find some resources and information for you. And so we have Katie and Marion who have joined me here. And so once you get that, we have those 3 of us, and we can start trying to look into some resources for you all. Again, it'll be very important and imperative that you let us know what type of access you have, meaning do you have internet? Do you have a computer for your kids? Because that'll determine if we can find resources that they can do online. But if you don't have access like that, then we need to find resources that we can send to you all. So we would need, somebody else is joining right now. And we're getting ready to end the call, but I don't know who it is. Somebody named Damien, I think. Whoever it is that just joined, hi, welcome. Glad to have you. Hopefully you know Sylvia or Rosalind, because we're getting ready to end the call within the next 5 minutes, but we've covered a lot of information here. It's a lot of encouraging work that's already been done, and it's going to expand. And you guys now have U.S. partners to work with you all to help you along the way, because I know it's frustrating as a parent. You love your children, and to see them sitting there and not be able to get the help that they need educationally is very, very frustrating. And also even some of their physical needs as far as having a special need. So I get it. I've been that parent. I am that parent. If there's anything that we can do to assist you and walk alongside you, we would love to do that. So you guys are not alone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's very encouraging to know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Clarice, what I'll do, I'll send you like what we submitted to the Senate and what we passed on like to our COVID committee in terms of interjection for education specifically. Then I know that's still in discussion, because this week is when the ACD, that's Action for Children department, sent forth what we think, because they're talking about opening the schools in September. But then, you know, of course, for us, we're wondering the way our children will be able to cope with that, looking at how the laws have been set, but then following it through has not been the best. So I'll share that documentation with you. Maybe you can advise on how else we can support the government on how we can interject. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's from my side. Unless there is anything else we have pending from anyone, any thoughts, any last ideas?
For me, I want to really appreciate your initiative to assist us. We are ready to be assisted and to be guided. So thank you very much. And we will continue working together. We are giving this chance to any person on call to make their concluding remarks.
Yeah,
Lily, you
this
look
is
like
Lily.
you want to talk.
Yes, yes. I'm just excited because this has been in my mind for so long, and I've always wondered how do we go about this. So seeing that we are getting people who are open to hold our hands and do this together, I think it's an awesome thing, and we should truly just hold our hands. We might even start off as few as we are, but with time we will grow. And I know this is just for the better of our children. And you never know, grandchildren, or even, you never know how far this can go. So let's do this. I'm happy this has started. It's a good conversation, and I'm really appreciative. Thank you, Sylvia, for starting the call, and also the speakers. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Anytime, Lily, that's what we're here to do, to make sure that even beyond us, our children will have some security, you know, some guidelines to make sure that things keep going. Because if we don't do this now, we can't depend on anyone else to come and do it for us. So we have to make the change now for a better future.
Correct, yeah.
Anyone else?
I just want to encourage you all as parents. You know your children best, and you can definitely educate them in a way that supports their needs. So be encouraged that that you can do it as parents.
Thank you very much.
Who was that speaking?
so
They need to know who was speaking. Who was speaking? Who just said
This
that?
is Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay, Katie.
I just want thank you, Katie. Thank you, Clarice. Thanks, Sylvia, for organizing this. Thanks, Rosalind. I think this is the first time I'm getting space that I'm interacting openly and acknowledging that there is help that can be out there, that can be tapped into to help in this journey. And I'm quite grateful for this opportunity, because I think most of the times I just bottle it in and strive to see how I can change the situation on my own. Thanks a lot. And I would be Sylvia and Rosalind. Personally, I work so much in advocacy issues, so I would really love to take up anything that would help us to advocate and change the tide as it is currently to help our children. So, of course, please, as you create the list, I'm number 1 on the list, and you can tap on one. I have a legal background, although I don't work legally. I'm more into policy advocacy, so please, whatever opportunity, I'm writing to you, Rosemary, so whatever chances that come up, please just reach out and I will be glad to take things up.
Thank you so much. That is clear.
Thank you, Lucy. Actually, one of the things that we needed a legal person on our team to advise on some of these things that we're doing, to give us general guidance and advice on the best way. Because when we're working on the documents, you know, we are working both as caregivers and with the little information we know about the Constitution, the CRPD, which we sign on as Kenya, and SDGs. But I believe the legal background will be highly appreciated. So we can speak directly and know if you'd like to join our technical working groups on the department, at least for law and policy, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, this has been a very interactive session. We have really enjoyed and learned a lot. So I want to thank everyone for making up for this time, and I want to hand over to Sylvia to say the final remarks, and maybe give Clarice a chance to also conclude. I think she didn't conclude. Sylvia?
Let's start with Clarice, so I do the vote of thanks.
Okay, Clarice.
I appreciate you guys inviting me to come and to speak and to share, and for your transparency and sharing with me all what is happening there. And I'm just excited. I'm humbled. I want to be of help to you all. So I'll do whatever is in my power to help you, because I believe that all children deserve an appropriate education. And I know that you all, as their parents and caregivers, love them tremendously, just like we love our kids over here. And it's hard when you can't help them. And so if we can be of any resource just by going and asking people and trying to direct resources to you, that's of little consequence to us. And we can definitely do that. And walk alongside you guys to build up your movement. Because I know you guys are going to be powerful. You're already powerful. Look at you. Look what you've done already. You guys need to give yourselves a round of applause because you guys have already started. You got powerful Sylvia. You got Rosalind. You got Lucy. Your voices are strong. Lily's voice, strong advocates on this call. And you guys are going to do what no one thought you could. And it's going to change not only your children, but their children and their children's children. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. What an encouragement. We are so encouraged, Clarice. Thank you so much.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, Sylvia, now you.
Thank you very much who joined in. Thank you for your contributions. And I'd like to say, Clarice, thank you very much for setting aside your time and at least for encouraging us to make these things happen. You know, sometimes here in Africa, like we say, we talk about Ubuntu, like I am because you are. And since you have gone ahead of us, you have made these things happen out there. As we are trying to catch up and also do the same for our children, we appreciate your support and the general offer to just walk this journey with us and guide us. We really, really appreciate. And for all the caregivers who are on this call, for setting your time despite the changes, because we are also comfortable with our 2 p.m. and I know all the things that we need to be doing right now, making dinner and taking care of the family. But you're here to just stand for your children and be their voice. And that is what we stand for as Andy Speak. We say, let's embrace our differences. Let's be the voice for our children. Most of our children cannot stand up. We need to change. The baton has been passed on to us as caregivers. And for you to show up for your child, I always say that's the greatest sacrifice. That's the greatest thing you can do in the special needs space to make sure that we have a brighter future. Because we cannot just sit and expect someone to do it for us. We have to take up the mantle and be the ones who make it happen. We can't sit and wait for others to do it for us. So just showing up and being on this call means a lot, and we appreciate it. And we're looking forward to set this ball rolling. If you haven't put down your name and your contacts, kindly do so. We shall be sharing and forming a group at least to have this conversation. And we are hoping that we will see a difference sooner rather than later. And when we call upon you to come and show up, when we have to stand in front of our leaders and tell them, hey, look, this is what is on the ground. Because you see, the problem here with Kenya is we have things on paper, but when you go on the ground, it's a totally different story altogether. So that's what we're looking at. We want you to show up for your child. And I really appreciate that. This is the first step. You've been here, you've contributed, you've shared your thoughts. So now the next thing is let's make it happen. Let's set the ball rolling. And let us be the difference we want to see in our community. Not just now. COVID has just given us an opportunity to highlight the gaps. So let's make it happen. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rosalind, for helping. Clarice, I can't thank you enough for being here and for also setting the ball rolling in terms of the conversation and for offering to walk with us through this journey. We want to say thank you, and thank you to Esther for introducing us to you. And as Andy speaks, we promise we will not let you down. We will see to it. I can always make the promise to all the caregivers. Until death takes me away, we'll make sure that this happens. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. Take care, guys. Till next time. Be encouraged. We're going to do good things, great things. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
and
you.
good night for Kenyans and good day.
Good night, Kenya.
Thank you
Thank
and
you.
bye.
Bye. Good night too.
Okay, then bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Say bye, baby.
Bye.